So we're going to be doing a small introduction to the swing. Basically, the main thing is that we would like to, okay, not this. We'd like to be talking about how to design some applications like this. Okay, so first of all, we need to talk about this event-driven programming. With an event-driven programming, what we're going to be doing is basically this, dealing with events. What is an event? A click on a button, a press, a keyboard key was pressed or released, or a release of a button, a mouse was moved. These are all events, and I can capture them, and if this something happened, I can do something with it. For example, if I click on a button, that means something should happen, and this is the event is a button was clicked. And then if the button was clicked, I will do something. Like for example here, I put numbers. If I click on the button add, what would happen is that it will take the number 1 and add it to the number 2, and the result will be displayed in the result. So that's the main idea. But before being able to do that, I just wanted to talk about this event-driven. There are many events that we can capture, and these events, if we'd like to capture them, actually we're going to implement some methods from interfaces. And this is the link between what we just did just last time. Now, the good thing is, I mean, I would strongly advise you that you should be having a look at this website. I really liked the way they present it. Okay, hold on. Too many clicks. Now, this thing is going to give you some kind of introduction about AWT, and then what is that, and what's the difference between that and swing. Anyway, just to give you a short story. This AWT is some kind of an old way to do things. The new way to do things is the swing. So you're going to find down there something about the swing. So I advise you to have a quick read of some of these, not the full details, but just to have an idea. But the result of this, what you should get, is that the same specific, I mean, the same general idea applies to this AWT or to swing. What is it? Is that you have components and containers. So for example, to be able to draw something like this, you need a lot of different things. First of all, this is going to be a frame. The window itself is a frame, and it's a top level container, which means it's a container. It contains things, so there's things inside of it. And for example, these things are some invisible panels, which are some kind of separators, and you put inside of them different things. Labels, which are just some text that you see. Text fields, some places when you can put some input, we can enter some data. And then buttons, obviously, that you click on. That's the only job. There's a text, and then you click on it, it does something. You have to program it though, that you need to do something. So now, that's the same idea. It applies to anything. When there's some other things, there's some menu bar, we're going to talk about them, etc. But for now, the main thing is that we need to create some kind of a program. Now, if for us to be able to do that is to extend a class, a frame. Now, this is about AWT, that's why we extend a frame. But let me jump a little bit. I'm just going to go a little bit faster to take you to this swing, or I'm just going too fast maybe. Let me just go back here, AWT, until I find the talk about the nested inner classes. We're going to be talking about them inshallah later on, but let me just go to, where is the swing? Here it is. So just to give you an idea, I mean, there's different things you can do with the swing more than just the AWT, so it's more advanced, more new, let's say. But the main thing is that now we're not going to be talking about the look and feel. You can change the way things look. That's not the main important thing. But these are some parts of what we're going to be using. So these are the hierarchy of classes. We're going to be using labels called JLabels, and JButtons, and JText fields, and all these are components that I'm going to be able to see on a window, on a frame. And all actually I'm going to see is a J frame, not just a frame. So when I'm going to be creating, if I'd like to see something, I will just extend a J frame. So just to get into the practical, let me just create a new project, call it intro swing. and this is my class. Now this class over here, I'll leave it like this. I'm just going to create my new form. It's just a new class. I'm going to create my first form or frame, because they call it frame. My first frame. Now if I create this my first frame, this is not going to be able to be visible as a window, because this is the usual class that we do. But if I want it to be able to be visible as a window, I need to extend a JFrame. Now just by doing this, notice that by doing this, this imports the JFrame that comes from javax.swing.jframe. And now by doing this, I have just a frame, which is like a window that is empty. Can I see it? Yes, you can. But how to see that? Well, you need to create an object from that new my first frame. Okay, my first frame. Let's create f frame equal new my first frame. And then, okay, how can I see a frame? Sorry? Display? Well, no. Frame. I did not hear what you said. System.out.print? Well, no. If I do that, I'm just going to see the toString that is going to be available. And if I do system.out.print, I'm going to see things on the output here. So I don't want to see something like this textual output. I want to see a graphical output. So this logic is not going to work here. So if I just do something like this, I'm just going to see the toString, the default toString, that is going to be showing me some weird things. That's a nice toString. But that's not what I want. So if I'd like to see this, I need to do something like display or show or... Yes. There's something called set visible to be true. Now doing this means now this form that is my first this frame that is my first frame is to be true, means I'm going to see it. And if I run this thing, actually it's there, but you don't see it. Here it is, actually. You see, it was just there because did I mention the size of that frame? No. So it just created a small one with 0, probably 0, and then put it in the top left of the corner. Let me just close it, and if you close it, you see it's still running. That's something really important that you need to understand. If I close it like this, because this is the default behavior, it will just keep running in the background. How do I stop it? Well, for now, this is the only way to stop it, to click on the stop button, because it will keep running. The thing is that if you keep run it once, it's running. You see, you don't see it, but it's there. You see on this here. If I click, I see something in this corner that just appeared. Now, if I make it or resize it, then I can see it. Now, how to make this stop? I mean, yes. Well, I just clicked on the X button. You see, now I cannot even run another time because it's still running. So I have to stop it to run it again. And then you see, every time I run it, it's just so small and just goes to that place. And even if I click on this, it doesn't work the way I expected, because by default, it does not work that way. If you want to do something, you have to make some changes. And this is where we're going to make some changes. So first of all, if I'd like to initialize this frame, what's the best place? Where's the best place for me to initialize that? Constructor. So I'm going to define a constructor. And that constructor is just going to be this one, the one with no arguments. And now I need to put something in that. One of the things is the size. You see, the set size thing is going to give me the two, I think, actually the two set size. The one that is give a class called dimension, or one that give it the width and height. I'm going to use this one because it's easier. So the width, let's say 50, and the height 50. Now just by doing this, what I did, I just changed the size to make it 50-50. Let me run this. You see, now it's a little bit bigger. It's clearer now, this one. Let me stop it, maybe make it even bigger so you can see it better. Now you can see, oh, that That's much better because this is 150 by 150. 150 what? Centimeters? It's 150 pixels. What is a pixel? It's a dot on your screen. Now this screen that you have many dots, small pixels. This is the smallest unit that you have on your screen that just displays a color. Every this pixel can change the color. So how many pixels? This is the size of your frame. So now it has 150 by 150.
What's the maximum?
Of the size? Well, your screen is the maximum, because what if I do put something like, well, this is probably an int. So let me just go back to this set size. So this is an int. So the maximum is the maximum of an int that can be accepted. But of course, you can have like a big window, but if your screen is small, the window is going to be wider. How can you just even see the close button that you can close it? So yeah, that's so this is one thing. The other thing is that I can do something. Let's set title, my first frame. Now if I do something like this, that's what I see here. You see, before there was nothing. Now I see my first frame, and you can see now you're starting to build your graphical user interface. You have to, one step at a time, try to put things in it. Yes?
Can I increase the size of the title? Minimize the size of the title?
Well, it depends on the size. The size of that is depending on the size of your frame. So if the frame is big and small, so this is going to be related. So if you would like to change the size of your title, you have to change the size of the whole frame. So it's not something that you can control individually. Now, what other things? Well, before the buttons, I just would like to, there's something that is the set default close operation. And now this this is something that you'll have to just memorize for now. This is what will make your close button work the way you expect it to be. Now I'm just change the default close operation, which is when I click on this X. By default it does nothing, but you can change that by making it exit. When I click close, just stop the program, because by default you click close, it just hides it. It doesn't stop the program. The program keeps running, but just the window is hidden. It's not visible anymore. I just made it visible when I called it here, but then it's not visible anymore when I just close it. Now by doing this, notice that if I run and I close, it just stops, and that's a good thing. All right, easy. Now before going further, I just would like to you to practice this small thing. Just create this frame, just before getting too fancy. Next step, we're going to be doing something like this, this thing. But for now, let's just get to use these things. Remember, you have to create a new class that extends a JFrame. Once you do that, you have to set the title if you'd like to, set the size, and this is something set default close operation. Notice that this is something weird. This is the first time that we see something like that, right? This is actually not really the first time, but this is a static variable. Static variables can be used directly from the class. I don't need to instantiate. This is something we've seen maybe at the last week of Java 1. But this is the class JFrame, and that JFrame, it has a static method, a static variable, sorry, that is called exit on close. And this is actually a constant because it's final, it doesn't change. And this just puts some kind of code for it that if you have this exit on close, that means I'm going to stop. And there are others. Can I see them? Yes, you can. This is exit on close, and you see this one. This seems to be an inner class, but there's some other options there that I don't see now. Maybe they're coming from a superclass. But notice this JFrame here. It extends a frame and implements Windows constant, accessible, root pane container, transfer handler. You see, this is an inner class of this class. Now, the thing is, this is a class. This is a class, but this is not a class. This is an interface inside of a class, whatever. So this is a more complication. But let's just have a look at one of them. This Windows constants. If I click on this, this is an interface. Notice that this interface does not have any. You see, there are no methods. There are no abstract methods. Because we said that an interface can have constants or abstract methods. Well, this one, they use it just to have these variables. Do nothing on close, hide on close. These are the default. Exit on close. You see, this is another one that can be used. Basically, we're using the one from JFrame, but this is also inherited because you can use that. Yes. These numbers here, yeah. What do they mean? Well, this is something that do not mean for us, but those guys who programmed this whole thing, who prepared those classes, in their code they made that, for example, if you click on the button, it's going to check. Did you set the default behavior to be 1, 2, 3, or 4? So what is 1? Well, 1 means hide on close, 2 means something, etc. So this is some kind of value that is some kind of a flag to tell them what to do in this case. So if this value is this, do nothing. If this value is that, close. If this value, stop the program, etc. So this is internally, it's used internally to like some kind of a code to know what to do. And for us, we just use it as some kind of setting configuration thing. We can configure how this behavior will work. Yes. Well, where you can see it is not always easy, because you see, even if you look at the method, you can sometimes you can see some of them, but some other times you just see some. For example, look at this one. Now, if it checks, is the default operation is equal to hide, do this. If it's equal to that, do something. So it's hard to find the exact same place where they implement that. So you have to track and try to find which method and in which class, because it might not be here. It might be from another class that it was that is inheriting from. And for example, it might be, what I'm guessing is, just go back here, it might be from the frame. And in the frame, it's implementing things. So I don't know. And it's sometimes you have just good luck to investigate where to find where this is going to be used. But for me, what I'd like you to understand is that this JFrame is a class that inherits from a class and implements many different interfaces. It comes that these are Windows constants, that's the name, some kind of constants that are going to be used. But accessible is probably something that is going to have, this is an abstract method. And then this root pane container, another interface, it has some abstract methods. So anyways, these are interfaces and classes that we use to, in a whole, to use in this JFrame. Now let's try something simple like this. Just make sure that you're comfortable with this and don't get to forget those things. And then we're going to be addressing why is this a problem and how to deal with that. We'll talk about that inshallah. So let me free you.